When my mate threatened my life, the Mafia Alpha who overheard claimed me instead. Prologue rain hammered against the glass walls of La Lumiere, the most expensive restaurant in the city, a place where only the wealthy and the powerful dared to breathe. Yet inside, beneath the warm glow of chandeliers, an entirely different kind of storm was brewing. Evan Hale kept his eyes lowered, hands trembling around the wine glass. His mate Marcus sat across from him, jaw clenched, fingers drumming angrily on the tablecloth. To everyone else, Marcus looked like the perfect beta boyfriend. Only Evan knew the truth. Marcus was cruel, petty, jealous, and tonight, furious. "Do you know what you've done?" Marcus hissed under his breath. Evan's heart sank. He hadn't done anything, just arrived 5 minutes late. But Marcus never needed a real reason. When Evan didn't answer fast enough, Marcus leaned closer, whispering the sentence that made Evan's blood freeze. "You're dead when we get home." The words struck like a punch. Evan flinched, his Omega instincts whimpering for escape, for protection, anything. He looked away instinctively, straight toward the table next to theirs. And that was when everything changed. Sitting alone, with a glass of whiskey and a storm in his eyes, was a man every Alpha feared and every Omega prayed never to meet. Luciano Veltori, the Mafia Alpha, the Wolf King of the East District. But instead of cold indifference, his molten gold eyes were locked directly, sharply, devastatingly on Evan. Luciano had heard Marcus's threat. Evan felt it. The atmosphere around them shifted, thickening, electrifying. Even Marcus paused long enough to notice. "What are you looking at?" Marcus snapped at Evan. He grabbed Evan's wrist under the table, hard enough to leave a bruise tomorrow. Evan winced. Luciano's chair scraped against the floor. A low, primal sound rolled out of his chest. A growl. Not anger. Possession. Marcus stiffened. What the hell? Luciano did not blink, did not breathe, did not hide the dominance flooding the air like fire. He rose from his seat, steps slow, deliberate, predatory. Everyone in the restaurant went silent. Servers froze mid-step. Couples stopped eating. Even the music seemed to hold its breath. Luciano reached their table, his towering frame casting a shadow over Marcus. His eyes softened when they landed on Evan, as if he had found something he'd been searching for a long time. Then, in a voice so deep it vibrated through Evan's bones, he said, "Omega, come here." The words weren't a command, they were a claim. Marcus surged to his feet. "He's mine." "Back off, Alpha." Luciano didn't even look at him. "An Omega who flinches at your touch isn't yours," Luciano said flatly. Evan's breath caught. How could a stranger see everything so quickly? Marcus opened his mouth, and Luciano stepped closer, growl vibrating through the tiles. "Touch him again," Luciano warned, "and you'll leave this restaurant in a body bag." Gasps filled the room. Marcus paled. Evan stared up at the Mafia Alpha, heart pounding in his throat. Heat, fear, longing, safety all tangled together until he couldn't breathe. Something ancient and warm unfurled inside him. Something that whispered one impossible word. "Mate." Luciano extended a hand. Huge, steady, waiting. Evan didn't think. He moved. The entire restaurant inhaled sharply as Evan slipped out of his chair and walked toward the Mafia Alpha. Toward safety, toward danger, toward destiny. Marcus's furious voice cracked behind him. "This isn't over, Evan. You're dead." Luciano smoothly pulled Evan into his side, one protective arm curling around his waist. His scent enveloped Evan dark, intoxicating, Alpha calming every trembling nerve in his body. Luciano bent slightly, whispering against Evan's ear, "As long as you're beside me, no one will ever hurt you again." Evan shivered, leaning into him. And the rain outside kept falling, as if the world already knew. This was the night everything would change. This was the night a hunted Omega would find an Alpha far more dangerous than the man he fled. and far more devoted than Evan had ever imagined. This was the night bloodlines, secrets, and destiny would begin to unravel. And it all started with one growl. Chapter 1. The Wolf King's Hand. The world beyond Luciano Veltori's arm felt unreal, like Evan had stepped out of his own life and into someone else's. The Mafia Alpha's touch was warm, steady, terrifying, protective. Everything Marcus had never been. But as soon as they crossed the velvet curtains and stepped out of the restaurant, the cold night air slapped Evan's face, jerking reality back into place. He froze. What was he even doing? Running into the arms of an infamous Alpha, the Alpha whose name made criminals tremble? Luciano didn't rush him, didn't drag him, didn't command him. He simply stood there on the wet pavement, umbrella in one hand, the other still gently holding Evan's wrist, like he was afraid Evan might break apart if touched too firmly. Evan's gaze drifted up gold eyes, watching him with a mixture of heat and understanding that stole his breath. "You're safe now," Luciano said quietly. Safe. The word felt foreign, unreal, dangerous to hope for. "I shouldn't be here," Evan whispered, voice shaking. "I don't even know you." Luciano's lips curled into the faintest smirk. "You know enough." Lightning cracked overhead. Evan flinched, body instinctively leaning toward the Alpha's warmth. Luciano noticed. Luciano noticed everything. His voice dropped lower, more intimate. "Get in the car. You're drenched." A sleek black SUV waited at the curb, tinted windows, engine humming softly. The kind of car owned by men who lived in shadows. Evan hesitated. Luciano's scent dark cedar, smoke, and warm promises wrapped around him. His Omega instincts reacted before his mind could form objections. Fear whispered, "This is a mistake." Instinct whispered louder, "Safe, safe, safe. Please," Luciano added. The word shocked him. A Mafia Alpha saying please? Evan swallowed hard and stepped into the car. Inside the beast's den, the moment the doors closed, the outside world dissolved. Thick leather seats, warm lighting, the low purr of the engine, everything felt too expensive, too comfortable, too much. Luciano slid in beside him, not leaving an inch of cold air between them. Heat radiated from his body, sinking into Evan's chilled skin. "Seatbelt," Luciano murmured. Evan blinked, fumbling for it. His hands shook from shock, cold, adrenaline, everything. The buckle slipped. Luciano took Evan's hand gently. "Let me." Evan's breath caught. The Alpha leaned in, close enough for their foreheads to almost touch, and clicked the buckle into place. His breath brushed against Evan's cheek. His lips were inches away. Evan's cheeks burned. Luciano leaned back slowly, eyes never leaving his face. "You're shaking," the Alpha said. It's been a long night." A humorless laugh slipped from Evan's lips. He couldn't stop it. It was either laugh or break. Luciano tipped Evan's chin up with one finger. "Has he hurt you before?" The question sliced through the dark like a blade. Evan's stomach twisted. "I don't want to talk about it," he whispered. "Then don't," Luciano said. "Not until you're ready." Evan stiffened. This Alpha was too gentle, too controlled. It made no sense. "You don't even know me," Evan whispered. "Why are you helping me?" Luciano's gaze darkened, glowing gold in the dim lights of the car. "I heard the way he spoke to you," he said. "I saw the way you flinched. No Alpha with a heart leaves an Omega in that situation. That's not enough reason." Luciano's jaw flexed. A shadow crossed his eyes. Something old, something painful. "Maybe not," he murmured. "But there's another reason." Evan's pulse quickened. What reason? Luciano leaned closer. When I looked at you. His voice dropped to a reverent whisper. My wolf bowed its head. Evan's heart stuttered. Heat rushed to his face. His breath hitched. I'm not. You can't just... Luciano brushed a thumb under Evan's jaw, soothing. I'm not claiming you, he said softly. I'm just telling you the truth. Why? Evan croaked. Why me? Luciano only smiled. A dangerous, devastating smile that could ruin kingdoms. You feel it too, he murmured. Evan's stomach flipped. He looked away sharply, staring at his own trembling hands. Because yes, he felt something. Something electric. Something terrifying. Something that made his skin hum and his body lean toward Luciano even when his mind screamed to stop. But no, he couldn't do this. Not with a stranger. Not tonight. He drew a shaky breath. I can't stay with you, he whispered. Marcus will. Luciano cut him off with a look so cold the temperature inside the car seemed to drop. He will not come near you again. Something in the way he said it. Calm. Absolute. Certain sent a chill of relief down Evan's spine. You don't understand, Evan said. Marcus is... connected. He's cruel. He gets obsessed. He threatened to kill you, Luciano said flatly. That alone gives me the right to bury him. Evan's breath caught. Was he serious? Did Mafia Alphas say things like that casually? I'm not asking for blood, Evan whispered. Luciano leaned back, watching him with a quiet kind of intensity that made Evan feel seen in a way he never had before. Then what are you asking for? Evan opened his mouth, but the words stuck. What did he want? Safety? Freedom? A place where he didn't have to fear every footstep behind him? Or the warm, terrifying, beautiful man sitting beside him? His voice cracked as he finally whispered, I just want tonight not to end in pain. Luciano exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding his breath. Then come with me, he said. Just for tonight. A warm bed. A hot shower. No expectations. No claims. Silence fell. The rain outside softened. The city lights blurred past. Evan stared at his reflection in the window, pale, tired, fragile. He didn't recognize the person looking back. He didn't recognize the small spark of hope lighting inside his chest. He turned to Luciano, eyes shimmering. Just tonight? Evan whispered. Luciano nodded once. If you want. Evan inhaled shakily. His heart pounded. Every instinct screamed a different answer. Run, stay, trust, hide. Finally, he whispered, Okay. Luciano's shoulders relaxed, not with triumph, but with something warmer, softer, almost like relief. The Wolf King's home. The car rolled through tall iron gates, past rows of stone statues and flickering lanterns. Luciano's mansion wasn't a home. It was a fortress carved into the hillside, glowing dimly against the night like something ancient and alive. It's big, Evan whispered. Luciano smirked. It's small for someone like me. Small? This looks like a museum. Luciano's eyes softened with amusement. Don't worry. There are no guards inside the guest room. Guest room? You're sleeping near me, Luciano said simply. Safer. Evan's cheeks burned. Before he could respond, the car door opened. A man in a suit nodded respectfully. Boss, everything is ready. Luciano placed a hand on Evan's lower back and guided him inside. The touch was light, careful, reverent. Something Marcus had never understood. The entrance hall was quiet, warm, golden lamps, marble floors, old paintings, hints of cigar smoke in the air. Luciano placed a fresh towel into Evan's hands. "Shower," he said softly. "You're freezing." Evan hesitated. Luciano touched his cheek so gently that Evan nearly melted. "You're safe," the Alpha whispered again. And for the first time in years, Evan believed it. He stepped into the guest room and closed the door. Luciano waited outside, leaning against the wall, eyes closed. And in the silence, he finally admitted what he hadn't said aloud. The moment he saw the trembling Omega, the moment that weak Beta dared to threaten him, the moment Evan looked at him with those frightened, beautiful eyes, Luciano felt something snap inside him. This Omega was his, even if neither of them understood how, even if Evan wasn't ready, even if fate itself had to bend or break. Tonight, he would protect him. Tomorrow, he would find Marcus. And after that, he would uncover the darkness that lingered behind Evan's frightened eyes. Because something told him Marcus wasn't the only danger in Evan Hale's life. Something else was hunting the Omega. Something older, something hidden. Something that had already marked him long before tonight. Luciano opened his eyes, golden and burning. He would tear the world apart if he had to, but he would keep Evan safe, even from fate itself. The shadow at the gate. The storm had quieted, but inside Luciano's estate, a different kind of tension brewed. Luciano stood near the window, watching the dark silhouette linger beyond the front gate. He could sense the presence even before he saw the faint movement, a figure standing unnaturally still, too comfortable in the shadows to be a random intruder. Someone watching, someone waiting, someone who knew Evan. Luciano's jaw tightened. He wasn't a man who tolerated threats, especially not those aimed at someone under his protection. A soft sound behind him made him turn. Evan shifted in bed, caught somewhere between dreams and nightmares, brow furrowed, breath unsteady. Even asleep, his body trembled. Fear lived in his bones. It wasn't something a single night of safety could erase. "What did they do to you?" Luciano thought fiercely. The figure outside shifted again, barely noticeable, but Luciano caught it. His wolf surged forward, snarling silently. Not Marcus. Marcus had no stealth. Marcus had no patience. This presence was cold, calculated, old. Luciano stepped out of the bedroom silently and closed the door behind him. The call. He pulled out his phone. "Dante," he said, voice low. "Activate perimeter grid." Static crackled. Then Dante's gruff voice responded. "Already saw the shadow. Thought it was Marcus." "It's not." Dante's tone sharpened. "Then who?" "Unknown. Not a human civilian. Too still. Too controlled." A pause. "Shifter?" "Possibly." Dante hissed a curse. "We need ID." Luciano's eyes glittered with something dangerous. "We will have it." He hung up. A long, hunting instinct stirred inside him. He could feel it in his blood. Whoever stood out there wasn't here for Luciano. They were here for Evan. And that made them a threat he would eliminate without a second thought, even wakes. Inside the room, Evan stirred awake, disoriented. The room was dim, warm, and quiet. Too quiet. He sat up slowly, blanket sliding down his chest. Luciano wasn't beside him. A strange ache tugged at him, unexpected, embarrassing. Too intense for someone he had met only hours earlier. But safety wasn't something Evan had felt in years. He pulled his knees to his chest, breathed in the fading trace of Luciano's sense. Something pricked at his instincts. A chill whisper of dread, a feeling like eyes crawling across his skin. Evan stiffened. "No, no, no, please," he whispered, panic rising. "Not again." He slid off the bed and stumbled toward the window. Hands shaking, he peeked through the curtains. A figure, standing at the gate, unmoving, watching the mansion with the stillness of a predator. His blood ran cold. He knew that posture. He knew that presence in his nightmares. His voice broke. Him. His legs almost gave out. It wasn't Marcus. Marcus was a threat, yes. But this? This was far worse. Something Evan had spent years trying to escape. His pulse hammered violently. He opened the door and nearly crashed into Luciano. Luciano steadied him instantly, hands gripping Evan's arms. Evan? What's wrong? Evan's lips trembled uncontrollably. He's here, Luciano went still. Who? Evan swallowed hard, voice cracking, body trembling. The one I ran from before Marcus. Luciano's eyes turned molten gold. He lowered his voice to a lethal whisper. Tell me who he is. Evan shook his head violently. No. If I speak his name, he'll know. He always knows. He finds me every time. His breathing fractured. Panic spiraled out of control. Luciano cupped his face gently, grounding him. Look at me. Evan's eyes lifted shakily. You're safe here, Luciano said. I swear it. Evan's chest rose and fell rapidly. Tears welled in his eyes. You don't understand, he whispered. He isn't like Marcus. He isn't human. A chill sliced through the hallway. Luciano stilled completely. Explain. Evan clutched Luciano's shirt like a drowning man. I wasn't supposed to exist, Evan whispered brokenly. I wasn't supposed to survive. Luciano's heartbeat thundered in his ears. What are you saying? Evan's eyes filled with terror. He's not here to take me back. A tear slid down his cheek. He's here to finish what he started. Luciano's wolf roared inside him, ready to rip the world apart. He wrapped an arm around Evan, pulling him into his chest, holding him as if he could shield him from destiny itself. You're not going anywhere, Luciano growled. Not with him, not with anyone. But Evan's voice trembled with a truth even he could not escape. You don't understand, Luciano. He's not after my body. Luciano stiffened. Then what? Evan's next words shattered night. He's after my blood. Outside the gate. The figure stepped forward one pace. Moonlight finally touched his face. Red eyes gleamed. A cruel smile unfolded. He whispered, voice like silk and poison. Evan Hale, your time is up. Chapter 2. The Scent of a Secret. The hot water hit Evan's skin like a blessing. Hours of fear and adrenaline washed down the drain, leaving him trembling but lighter, safer, almost human again. He pressed his palms against the cool marble shower wall and breathed deeply. Luciano's scent still clung to him. Cedar, smoke, heat, strong enough to steady his racing heart. It terrified him how much comfort it brought. Stop it, Evan, he told himself. You just met him. He's dangerous. You should be thinking of escape, not his scent. But he couldn't stop remembering the way Luciano had looked at him. Like Evan was something precious. No one had ever looked at him that way. Not in years. Not since Evan shut his eyes. He wouldn't think about that. Not tonight. Not when he finally felt safe. After the shower, he dried off and pulled on the soft clothes Luciano had left on the bed. A simple cotton shirt and joggers too big for him. Too warm, too gentle for someone like an alpha mafia boss. Evan sank onto the bed. His head throbbed with exhaustion. His body was still trembling. His heart was still caught between fear and something warmer. A knock sounded at the door, gentle, unhurried. Evan? Luciano's deep voice flowed through the wood like velvet. Can I come in? Evan swallowed hard. His heart did something embarrassing. Yes. The door opened slowly. Luciano stepped in, wearing a black shirt that stretched over broad shoulders and powerful arms. His wet hair fell over his forehead, softening the sharp lines of his face. He looked less like a mafia king and more like a dangerous, beautiful man created in a moment of divine indulgence. But his eyes, they were gentle, scanning Evan from head to toe, checking he wasn't hurt. "You look warmer," Luciano said softly. Evan nodded. "Thank you for everything." Luciano leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. "If you thank me again," he murmured, "I might start to believe you think you don't deserve help." Evan's throat tightened. Luciano was watching him too closely, too deeply, like he saw everything. Evan looked away quickly. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not," Luciano said, voice firm. "Not even for a second." Evan blinked. People didn't normally speak to him like that. Luciano took a slow step forward. "Can I sit?" Evan nodded again, and Luciano sat at the edge of the bed, leaving enough space to keep Evan comfortable. But close enough, Evan could feel the heat of him like a second heartbeat in the room. "We need to talk," Luciano said. Evan's fingers curled into the bedsheets. "I knew this was coming." "Not what you think," Luciano said gently. There was a moment of silence, and then, "Evan," he said, voice lowering, "your body reacted to me." Evan's cheeks flamed. His pulse jumped. Heat rushed to his skin. I didn't, it's not your fault." Luciano's voice was calm, steady, unshakably in control. Omegas react to alphas when they feel unsafe, or when they sense someone stronger nearby. "So you think I reacted because I'm scared?" "No," Luciano said quietly. "You reacted because your body knows you're safe with me, even if your mind doesn't believe it yet." Evan's breath caught. Luciano continued. "Omega instincts don't lie. They point to strength, protection, safety." He leaned forward slightly, eyes glowing. "And they're screaming at you, 'Stay near me.'" Evan's voice trembled. "Just because my body reacts doesn't mean I want..." Luciano cut him off softly. "I know. I told you no expectations." Evan looked down at his hands. His voice was a fragile whisper. "You shouldn't get involved with me. My life is a mess. Marcus is possessive, dangerous. He'll come after me." A dark shadow flickered over Luciano's eyes. "He can come," Luciano said coldly. "He will leave in a coffin." Evan flinched. "A coffin?" Luciano's voice softened when he saw the reaction. "I won't hurt him if you don't want me to," he said gently. "But I will never let him hurt you again." Evan's eyes stung. Marcus's voice echoed in his mind. "You're dead when we get home." Luciano's voice broke through it like fire. "You're safe with me." Evan suddenly realized Marcus's threat wasn't the only thing haunting him. Something else lurked behind his fear. Something older. Something deeper. Luciano sensed it. "What else are you afraid of?" he asked quietly. Evan froze. His heart began to pound painfully. His breath hitched. His fingers trembled. Luciano leaned forward, slowly, cautiously, like approaching a frightened animal. "Evan," he whispered, "what happened to you before Marcus?" Evan's stomach dropped. Lightheadedness washed over him. "No," Evan whispered. "I don't want to talk about the past. I don't want to remember it." His hands pressed over his temples. "Not again," he whispered. "Please, not again." He didn't notice Luciano move suddenly. Strong arms were around him. Warm, steady, grounding. Evan's eyes widened as his body reacted instantly, pressing closer without thinking, gripping Luciano's shirt. Luciano didn't speak, didn't force, didn't question. He just held him. Evan's breath hitched. A sob escaped before he could stop it. Luciano lowered his voice to a whisper. "I've got you." Evan trembled violently, memories clawing at him. Dark rooms, locked doors, hands grabbing, voices lying. A childhood nightmare he never escaped. Luciano tightened his embrace so slightly. "You're not alone anymore," he murmured. "I won't let anything hurt you." Evan pressed his forehead against Luciano's chest, breathing in the alpha's scent until the panic faded, until the world steadied. Minutes passed. Finally, Evan whispered, "I don't understand why you care." Luciano stroked his hair gently, fingers sliding through damp strands. "You don't have to understand." he murmured. Just let me protect you. Evan's eyes fluttered shut. What if I'm not worth protecting? He whispered shakily. Luciano froze. Then he tilted Evan's chin up, forcing him to meet his gaze golden, intense, burning. Don't ever say that again. Evan swallowed hard. You're worth protecting, Luciano said softly. You're worth fighting for. He brushed a thumb across Evan's cheek. You're worth everything. Evan's breath stopped. Luciano leaned close. So close, Evan felt the heat of his lips near his ear. And one day, his voice dropped to a sinful whisper. You'll believe that too. Evan's heart nearly burst. Luciano didn't kiss him. He didn't push the moment further. He just held him. Steady. Warm. Safe. Evan's body grew heavy with exhaustion. Luciano eased him down onto the bed, pulling the blankets over him. Evan's eyes drifted shut. Stay, he whispered sleepily. Luciano stilled, then softly, always. Evan slipped into sleep. Luciano remained beside him, watching over him like a silent guardian. And as the clock ticked past midnight, a shadow moved outside the mansion, a figure watching from the gate, smiling. Not Marcus, something worse, something from Evan's past that he had tried desperately to forget. And the whisper of a voice carried through the night. Found you. Chapter 3. The blood that should not exist. Thunder rumbled across the distant sky, even though the storm had already passed. Inside the mansion, the air thickened with a far more dangerous electricity. Luciano held Evan close, supporting him as if the Omega might collapse at any moment. Evan's heart hammered so violently that Luciano could feel it against his chest. Evan, Luciano murmured, voice steady but edged with steel. You need to tell me what he is. Evan's eyes trembled. I can't, he whispered. Everyone who knows ends up dead? Luciano finished for him. Evan nodded silently. A muscle pulsed in Luciano's jaw. Then, let me rephrase, Luciano said, voice lowering to a lethal promise. I need to know what I'm protecting you from, so I can kill it. Evan stiffened. No, he croaked. You don't understand. He isn't something you can kill. Luciano met his gaze, eyes burning gold. I kill everything that threatens what's mine. Evan's breath hitched. What's mine? His cheeks warmed despite the terror gripping him. But there was no time to dwell on that word, because the shadow outside the gate moved again, closer this time. Evan flinched, clinging to Luciano's arm like a lifeline. Luciano turned sharply. Dante, he ordered through the comms. Lock down the perimeter. No one gets in. Static. Then Dante's voice. Already did. But, boss? He hesitated. We scanned the guy. He's not reading as human, alpha, beta, or omega. Luciano's blood chilled. Then what the hell is he? Dante exhaled shakily. I think we're dealing with something supernatural. Evan's truth. Luciano guided Evan into his office-fortified room with reinforced steel walls and shut the door behind them. Evan wrapped his arms around himself, shoulders shaking. Luciano knelt in front of him, gently taking his hands. Tell me, he whispered. What is he? Evan squeezed his eyes shut. He's called a bloodseeker. Luciano frowned. I've never heard of that. You're not supposed to. Evan's voice cracked. They're not part of our world. They're older, hidden. They hunt down beings with blood that holds power. Luciano's grip tightened. And your blood? Evan trembled harder. There's something wrong with me, he whispered. Something I never asked for. Something that shouldn't exist. Luciano stared at him intense, unblinking. There is nothing wrong with you, Luciano said firmly. Nothing. Evan shook his head. You don't know what I am. Then tell me. His voice softened. So I can protect you properly. Evan swallowed hard. My blood. He hesitated, voice barely a breath. Isn't Omega blood? Luciano froze. What do you mean? It's mutated, Evan whispered. I don't follow Omega biology. I don't respond to heat the way I should. Sometimes, my body acts like an alpha's. Sometimes like neither. Doctors said I should have died at birth. A tear slid down his cheek. But instead, whatever is inside me made my blood valuable. To them, Luciano's eyes darkened. And this bloodseeker wants to take it. Evan nodded weakly. They drink it, absorb its power, and once they taste someone's blood, once they mark a target, they track that person forever. Luciano's wolf snarled viciously inside him. He marked you? When I was 13, Luciano's fists clenched, so hard his knuckles turned white. 13. A child. What did he do to you? Luciano asked quietly. Evan's breath shattered. I escaped before he could finish the ritual. But he drank enough to track me across continents. No matter where I hide, he finds me. Luciano rose slowly, like a storm gathering strength. His voice was low, lethal. He's not taking you. Evan's eyes widened. You don't understand, he whispered urgently. He isn't human. He isn't even fully alive. His strength, his senses, they're beyond anything, even a Mafia alpha like you. Luciano cupped Evan's face gently. I don't care what he is. Gold fire sparked in his eyes. No one touches what I protect. Evan's breath shook. Why? He whispered helplessly. Why are you doing this for me? Luciano's answer was simple. Because you looked at me like I was your last hope. He brushed a thumb across Evan's cheek. And because, when you flinched at that bastard Marcus, something in me snapped. Evan swallowed. Luciano leaned closer, voice dropping to a near growl. And because, Omega, he paused, eyes flickering with something deeper, older. My instincts are telling me you're mine. Heat washed over Evan's skin. His pulse jumped. His scent soft, warm, faintly sweet spiked. Luciano inhaled sharply. Their faces were inches apart. Their breaths mingled. Their hearts pounded. Evan whispered, almost pleading, Luciano. But the moment cracked because the lights flickered. A cold wind swept through the mansion. And a voice, smooth, ancient, terrifyingly calm, whispered from beyond the walls. Found you, little runaway. Evan's blood ran ice. Cold. Luciano turned toward the sound, eyes glowing murderously. The bloodseeker was no longer at the gate. He was inside the perimeter, and very, very close. The Mafia Alpha, who wouldn't let go. Asterisk, asterisk. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. Adrian stepped out first, his broad frame tense, shoulders stiff like he was preparing for an ambush. Luca followed closely, still processing the Alpha's sudden shift from terrifyingly dominant to protective, almost gentle. But the penthouse was silent, too silent. Adrian scanned the large, dark space once, then reached behind his back, drawing his gun. Stay behind me, he murmured. Luca obeyed without arguing. The city lights filtered in through the glass walls, casting long shadows across the floor. Nothing seemed disturbed, yet Luca felt a chill like someone had just left. Adrian walked deeper into the penthouse. With every step, Luca sensed the Alpha's scent shifting, sharpening. Something was wrong. They entered the main living area. A single glass of wine sat on the coffee table. Still warm. Adrian swore under his breath. He was here. Luca's breath caught. Buh. Who? Someone who shouldn't be. Adrian holstered the gun but didn't relax. Someone who thinks you belong to them. Luca's mind raced. You think Jonah? No. Adrian cut him off. This wasn't Jonah. This was someone far more dangerous. Before Luca could ask, Adrian stepped toward him close enough that their breaths mingled. Listen to me carefully. Adrian's voice was low, urgent. You do not leave my side. Not even for a second. Luca's heart hammered. I don't understand why you're suddenly... Because I smelled something that should not exist in your life. Adrian growled softly. Omega pheromones. Marking, belonging, claim. Someone tried to scent this space with you. Luca froze. But I haven't been here before. Luca whispered. Adrian's eyes darkened. I know. A sickening realization hit Luca. That meant someone else wanted to claim him. Someone bold enough to walk into Adrian's territory and leave a message. Adrian, who would do that? Adrian looked away, jaw clenched. Someone who's been hunting Omegas for years. Someone the Mafia never managed to catch. Luca's stomach twisted. You sound like you know them. I do. Adrian exhaled slowly. He's called the Collector. Luca's blood ran cold. The Collector doesn't chase lovers, Adrian continued. He takes what he wants. He steals Omegas. And once he marks one, he never stops until he gets them. Luca swallowed hard. Why me? Adrian looked at him with an expression Luca had never seen before. Fear. Because he's afraid for me. Adrian stepped closer. Too close, his hand lifting slowly as though he wanted to touch Luca's face but was holding himself back. Because you're rare, Adrian whispered. Rare enough to kill for. Omega pheromones like yours. They're unforgettable, even unclaimed. Luca's knees weakened. Adrian finally cupped his cheek, thumb brushing a soft line under Luca's eye. You're not safe, Adrian whispered. Not with Jonah, not alone, not anywhere except here. Luca's breath trembled. And with you? Adrian's eyes softened dangerously, beautifully. With me, he murmured. You're untouchable. Their faces were inches apart. Luca felt heat rising under his skin, felt his heart cracking open in a way he didn't want to admit. Adrian's scent washed over him again, warm, intoxicating, protective, claiming, and Luca leaned in before he realized he had. Their lips brushed. A sudden bang echoed through the penthouse. Adrian instantly shoved Luca behind him, weapon drawn again. Another noise, metal, scraping against metal. Someone had triggered the emergency stairwell door. Footsteps. Fast. Running. Adrian grabbed Luca's wrist. Stay close and don't make a sound. Luca nodded, heart hammering. They moved silently toward the hallway leading to the bedrooms. Adrian reached the wall panel and pressed a hidden button. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a narrow, reinforced safe room. Luca blinked. This is where you stay, Adrian said firmly. Until I get rid of him. Luca grabbed his arm. No, Adrian, you could be hurt. Adrian leaned close, bringing their foreheads together. I won't be, he whispered, because someone finally gave me a reason to stay alive. Luca's breath hitched, but Adrian pulled back, shutting the safe room door before Luca could speak. Darkness swallowed him. Soft, warm, padded. Then he heard it. The sound of a door crashing open somewhere outside. A voice deep, almost playful. Well, well, the Crimson Wolf has gotten himself a pretty little Omega. Luca's blood turned to ice. Adrian answered with a snarl that made the walls vibrate. He's not yours. Oh? The intruder chuckled. Not yet. Luca covered his mouth, trembling. Footsteps. A fight. A crash. A growl that wasn't human. The Collector laughed. Careful, Alpha. If I break you too fast, this won't be fun. Adrian's voice, low and deadly, over my dead body. Glad we understand each other. Something heavy slammed into the wall beside Luca. Dust shook from the ceiling. Then, Adrian roared, a sound that made Luca's knees give out. A sound of an alpha fighting for more than pride or territory. Fighting for him, Adrian. Luca whispered, hands shaking. Another crash. Silence. Dead silence. Luca's breath hitched. Then a voice spoke right outside the safe room door. Soft, smiling, too calm. Pretty Omega, did he hide you in here? Luca's heart stopped. The collector found him. The intruder's breath was on the other side of the metal wall. So sweet. I can smell you. Luca bit his lip to keep from making a sound. A fingernail tapped the metal, almost teasing. Be good, the voice whispered, and come out when your alpha stops breathing. Luca's entire body froze. The collector was walking away, but his last words lingered like poison. I'll come back for you. Luca pressed both hands over his mouth, tears slipping down. Adrian, please be alive. He didn't know if Adrian could hear him, but he prayed anyway. For the first time in years. The night the wolf fell. Silent, asterisk, asterisk. The silence after the collector's footsteps faded was worse than the fight itself. Luca couldn't hear Adrian anymore. That terrified him more than the threat whispered through the metal door. Minutes passed. Or maybe it was seconds. Time felt thick, slow, suffocating. Luca pressed his ear to the wall, straining for any sound. Nothing. Adrian? He whispered, voice shaking. Please, answer me. Still nothing. His body trembled. His heart hammered painfully against his ribs. The tiny safe room felt like it was shrinking around him, trapping him with fear and guilt. I should never have come here. I should have stayed away. Why did I trust an alpha? I barely know, but he knew the truth. He did trust Adrian. A part of him trusted him from the very first moment the alpha growled at Jonah in the restaurant. He couldn't stay locked away while Adrian number Luca couldn't even finish the thought. His shaking fingers found the emergency latch Adrian had shown him earlier. It wasn't meant to be used recklessly. But Adrian was out there, alone. He forced himself to pull it down. The door slid open with a barely audible hiss. The hallway outside was dark, but Luca could smell it instantly. Blood. Iron. Heavy. Fresh. His stomach twisted. Adrian, he whispered again, stepping out on unsteady legs. The penthouse looked like a war zone. A table overturned. Glass shattered across the floor. The wall near the living room cracked, like someone had been thrown into it with terrifying force. Luca's breath hitched when he saw the smear of blood on the marble. Too much blood. He followed the trail slowly, terrified. Every step a prayer. It led to the center of the living space. And there, slumped against the wall, was Adrian. Luca's knees almost buckled. Adrian. He ran toward him, sliding on the floor, dropping to his side. The alpha was conscious barely. His eyes were half closed, breath ragged, shirt torn open to reveal deep bruises and claw-like gashes across his chest. Luca, Adrian murmured, voice hoarse. I told you. Stay inside. You were hurt, Luca gasped, tears filling his eyes. I couldn't just hide, while you... Adrian's hand weakly lifted, brushing Luca's cheek with trembling fingers. You're safe. That's what matters. No, Luca whispered. Not if you're like this. Adrian's lips curved into a faint, pained smile. You disobeyed me. Luca almost laughed brokenly. Then punish me later. Just stay alive now. A low hum escaped Adrian's chest, something between a laugh and a groan. Luca tore off his outer shirt and pressed it against one of the wounds, trying to stop the blood. Adrian flinched, muscles tightening under Luca's hands. It's okay, Luca whispered shakily. I've got you. Adrian's hand closed around Luca's wrist, not to push him away, but to steady him. You came out for me, Adrian murmured. Luca met his gaze raw, vulnerable, full of emotions he couldn't hide anymore. Of course I did. For a moment, time stilled. Adrian's breaths softened. His eyes warmed, even through the pain. No Omega has ever. Adrian swallowed hard, voice cracking. No one ever worried about me first. Luca blinked through his tears. You protect everyone. Doesn't anyone protect you? Adrian's eyes softened even more. Just you, he whispered. Luca's breath caught. Emotion swelled in his chest hot. Overwhelming, terrifying in its intensity. He leaned close, pressing his forehead gently to Adrian's. You idiot, Alpha, Luca whispered, voice trembling. If you died, A sudden noise cut him off. The elevator. Someone was coming up. Adrian's entire body tensed. His grip on Luca tightened. Behind me. Adrian growled weakly. Now, Luca's heart jumped into his throat. What if the collector came back? The elevator dinged. Footsteps. Luca braced himself, then the lights flicked on. A tall man with sharp amber eyes stepped into view, gun drawn. Adrian, he barked. Answer me if you're alive. Adrian groaned. Rafe, about time. Rafe lowered his gun instantly and rushed forward. Holy, what the hell happened here? He demanded. Then his eyes fell on Luca. And who the hell is he? Adrian's hand returned to Luca's wrist, tightening protectively. My Omega, Adrian growled. Luca's breath stopped. Rafe blinked. You're... What? Adrian, since when? Since I decided. Adrian snapped, though his voice was weak. Now shut up and help me. Rafe knelt beside him, assessing the damage. He shook his head. You're lucky I track your damn phone. Otherwise you'd be a corpse by now. Luca flinched at the word. Adrian squeezed his wrist again, comfortingly. He's okay, Adrian murmured. I'm okay. Luca wasn't sure if he was saying it for him or himself. Rafe glanced between them and sighed. We need to move him. He's losing too much blood. Luca nodded quickly. Tell me what to do. Rafe gave him a surprised look, then smirked. Feisty one, aren't you? Adrian growled. Rafe. Rafe held up his hands in surrender. All right. Omega's off limits. Got it. Together, they helped Adrian to his feet. He hissed in pain, but stayed upright barely. Rafe wrapped an arm around his back, supporting most of his weight. Luca grabbed Adrian's hand tight, steady. Adrian looked at him, eyes soft. Don't let go, he murmured. Luca shook his head, holding tighter. Never. As they took the first step toward the elevator, Adrian leaned closer, breath brushing Luca's ear. He's coming back for you, he whispered. The collector won't stop now. Luca swallowed hard. Then I'll stay with you, where he can't reach me. Adrian's grip tightened. His voice was low, fierce, trembling with possessive relief. You're mine now. Luca didn't argue. He didn't want to. Not anymore. Not anymore. He didn't want to. Not anymore. Chapter 4. Part 1. The Wolf's Den. The car sped through the city like a black bullet, rain slashing across the windows as Rafe drove them through the night. Luca sat in the back seat beside Adrian, refusing to let go of his hand for even a second. Adrian leaned against him, not fully, because pride ran too deep in his bones, but enough that Luca could feel the alpha's weight, the exhaustion in his body, the trembling beneath the surface. He was fighting to stay conscious. Luca tightened his grip. Adrian, stay awake, okay? Adrian's eyes flickered open, his gaze slow and heavy. You're still here. His voice was low, rough. Good. Luca felt heat rush to his cheeks. Of course I'm here, Rafe snorted from the front seat. He's bleeding out, half conscious, and that's the first thing he asks? Adrian, you're unbelievable. Shut up, Rafe, Adrian muttered. But Luca saw the faint smile at the corner of his lips. Rafe's phone buzzed on the dashboard. He hit the speaker without looking. A soft female voice came through. Is he stable? Define stable, Rafe sighed. He's alive, barely. Bring him to the safe house, she ordered. Medical team is ready. Safe house. The word alone sent a shiver through Luca. He swallowed hard. Does this happen often? Adrian getting hurt like this? Adrian's eyes closed again, but he answered. Not often. Rafe scoffed. Liar. Adrian growled, weakly. Rafe, I swear. But the growl ended in a wince. Luca immediately placed his hand on Adrian's shoulder. Don't talk. Save your strength. Adrian's eyes opened just enough to meet his. Something softened there. Something dangerous and warm and painfully tender. I don't need strength, Adrian whispered. As long as you're with me. Luca's breath caught. Rafe groaned loudly. Oh great, now he's romantic. But Luca didn't care, because he could feel Adrian slipping in and out of consciousness. Every word felt like it might be his last for the night. Luca leaned closer, voice barely a whisper. I'm not leaving you. Not tonight. Not ever, until you're safe. Adrian exhaled shakily, like Luca's words were the only medicine working. The car turned sharply, pulling into a private underground garage. Armed guards waited on both sides. They nodded once at Rafe, then opened the reinforced steel doors, leading deeper underground. Luca stared. This wasn't a house. This was a fortress. They drove through another metal gate, before finally stopping in a dimly lit underground hall. Rafe got out first. Stay with him. Don't let him walk alone. Luca nodded, already sliding his arms around Adrian's waist as he helped him out of the car. The Alpha's legs wobbled. Luca held on tighter. Lean on me. Adrian tried to smirk. You're small. Shut up and use me. Luca snapped before he could think. Adrian blinked, then actually laughed. Soft, pained, but real. Rafe raised a brow. He listens to you better than he listens to the entire Mafia. Luca flushed. Adrian squeezed his hand. They moved through a long corridor lined with steel-reinforced walls and security keypads. The air smelled sterile, cold, clinical. Rafe pushed open a set of double doors. Inside was a fully equipped medical bay. 3 doctors rushed forward immediately. Put him here. Luca helped Adrian onto the metal bed. The moment he let go, Adrian's hand shot out, gripping Luca's wrist with surprising strength. Don't leave, Adrian breathed. Luca stepped close again. I'm not leaving. I'll stay right here. That seemed to calm Adrian. His grip loosened, though he didn't let go. The doctors began their examination. Rafe stood beside Luca, his arms crossed, eyes scanning everything. Collector really got you good this time, he muttered. Adrian scoffed, though the sound trembled. He ran. After stabbing you, Rafe pointed out. Coward, Adrian grunted. The doctor cleared his throat sharply. Alpha, stop talking before you reopen your wounds. Rafe leaned toward Luca. See? Idiot. Luca elbowed him. Stop calling him that. Rafe stared, surprised, then smirked. He really has you wrapped around his finger, huh? Luca didn't answer, because Adrian suddenly winced, and Luca immediately moved closer, brushing hair from the Alpha's forehead. It's okay, Luca whispered. You're safe now. Adrian exhaled slowly. Because you're here. The doctor injected a sedative. Adrian's eyes fluttered. He squeezed Luca's wrist one last time. Don't go anywhere. I won't, Luca promised. Adrian finally slipped into unconsciousness. The room went quiet except for the beeping monitors. Rafe sighed, rubbing his face. This is bad. Luca's stomach clenched. Is he in danger? Physically? Rafe shook his head. He'll heal. He survived worse. But the collector, his voice dropped. He's not stopping now. You're the first Omega he's marked in years. Luca shivered. Why? He whispered. Rafe studied him, eyes sharp, calculating. Finally, he said something that made Luca's heart freeze. Because you're not just any Omega. He leaned in closer. You're the one Adrian can't walk away from. Luca's breath hitched. His heart pounded. He looked at Adrian unconscious, battered, vulnerable, and something inside him clicked. Something frighteningly deep. Something he couldn't deny anymore. He wasn't staying because he owed Adrian. He wasn't staying because he was scared. He was staying because Adrian was becoming something he wasn't allowed to lose. Luca lowered his voice. What do I do now? Rafe's answer was simple. Heavy. Stay alive. He paused. And don't break Adrian's heart. Luca swallowed hard. Because he didn't intend to. Not anymore. The alpha who wouldn't let go even in his sleep. Asterisk. Asterisk. The doctors moved around Adrian with quiet efficiency, stitching wounds, applying pressure wraps, checking for internal injuries. Luca stayed exactly where Adrian had asked him to, right at his side, close enough that their hands still touched. Rafe leaned against the wall with his arms crossed, watching everything with a hawk-like intensity. He didn't trust the silence. It was the kind that came right before a storm. Luca sat in a chair beside Adrian's bed, unable to look away from the alpha's face, without the commanding edge, without the growl, without the power. Adrian looked human, beautifully, painfully human. A faint crease formed between Luca's brows. He really pushes himself too far, doesn't he? Rafe snorted. He pushes himself past death. He's Adrian Hale. Then, with a sigh, the idiot thinks he's invincible because nobody's ever made him want to live. Luca's chest tightened at that. Rafe continued in a low voice. Adrian never had someone to lose. Until tonight. Luca's breath caught. His pulse sped. I don't know what you're implying. Rafe raised a brow. You're smart. Don't play clueless. Luca looked away. But the truth burned in his chest. He cared for Adrian. Deeply. Intensely. Frighteningly. And it had only been 2 days. Rafe checked his watch. We need to move him in a few hours. This safe house isn't secure enough. Luca's eyes widened. Not secure, but we're underground with guards everywhere. This? Rafe scoffed. The collector broke into Adrian's penthouse, which has higher security than most government facilities. You think a safe house scares him? Luca swallowed. What does he want with me? Luca whispered, trembling voice. Rafe studied him for a long moment. Adrian told you the collector, didn't he? Luca nodded. Then I'll tell you the rest. Rafe's tone lowered, almost solemn. He doesn't just take omegas. He takes rare ones. Ones with uncommon traits. Luca blinked. I'm not rare. Rafe's lips curled. You don't even know what you are. Luca stiffened. What do you mean? Rafe leaned forward until his face was eye level with Luca's. You're unclaimed, unmated, unbonded. He paused deliberately. Yet every alpha in a 50-foot radius can smell you, even when you're suppressing. Luca's breath hitched. His hands shook. He looked down at Adrian's injured form. Rafe continued. And Adrian, who never reacts to omegas, lost control the moment you were in danger. Luca pressed a hand to his chest. His heartbeat thundered. So tell me, Luca, Rafe murmured. What kind of omega turns the Mafia alpha into a feral, possessive, don't touch him or I'll kill you beast? Luca's lips parted, but no sound came out, because deep down, something inside him knew the answer, and it scared him. Before he could respond, a soft groan broke the tension. Adrian's fingers twitched. Luca shot to his feet, grabbing Adrian's hand. Adrian, I'm here. The alpha's eyes fluttered open, hazy but searching. When he found Luca, something in his expression melted like every wall he'd ever built cracked open. Luca, Adrian exhaled, voice low and wrecked. Come closer. Luca hesitated, not because he didn't want to, but because the way Adrian said it felt like a pull on his soul. Still, He leaned in. Adrian's hand came up weakly and cupped the back of Luca's neck. Luca froze. Adrian pulled him closer until Luca's forehead touched his. "You came out of the safe room, not a question." A statement filled with emotion. Luca swallowed. "I couldn't leave you. Adrian's fingers tightened at the nape of his neck. "Don't do that again." Luca's voice broke. "I thought you died." A breathy exhale left Adrian pain, relief, and something deeper. Something possessive. "I won't die," Adrian whispered. "Not when I finally found you." Luca's breath caught. Rafe groaned quietly. "God, you two are going to give me diabetes." But neither Adrian nor Luca heard him. Adrian's thumb traced the edge of Luca's jaw. "Stay with me," Adrian murmured. "Tonight, tomorrow, until I say you're safe." Luca's throat tightened. "I will." Adrian's eyes softened. "Promise?" Luca gripped his hand with both of his. "I promise." Adrian exhaled shakily, like that promise was holding his entire world together. Then, his fingers brushed Luca's cheek, moving slowly, gently, possessively. Luca's heartbeat stuttered. Adrian's voice dropped to a whisper. Raw, bare, honest. "I want you close." A pause. "Too close." Luca's breath trembled. "Adrian." But before anything else could happen, the alarms blared. The lights turned red. Rafe bolted upright. "Shit breach detected." Luca felt his blood turn cold. Not again. Not here. Rafe grabbed a gun from his belt and barked orders into his comm. "Lockdown level 5. All exits sealed. Protect the Omega." Adrian tried to sit up too fast, too hard. Luca pushed him back gently. "You're injured," Adrian snarled. "I don't care. He's here for you." A voice crackled through the intercom. Emergency protocol activated. Unidentified intruder inside the facility. Luca's heart dropped. Rafe cursed under his breath. He got in. How the hell did he get in? Adrian met Luca's gaze, eyes burning like wildfire. "Luca," Adrian growled quietly. "You stay behind me, no matter what." Luca nodded. Even though fear clawed at his chest, even though the entire room shook with the sound of automatic doors sealing shut, even though the collector had just broken into the one place Adrian swore was safe, and for the first time Luca understood something terrifying. Adrian wasn't exaggerating. He wasn't dramatic. He wasn't paranoid. The collector wasn't here to fight Adrian. He was here to take Luca, and he would tear through anyone, anything to get him. Rain drummed against the windows like a trembling heartbeat. Only one dim lamp glowed in the penthouse bedroom, painting soft halos of gold over the room and over Adrian, who was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. Luca closed the door quietly behind him, but Adrian still flinched. His shoulders tightened, body instinctively preparing for attack, then relaxing half a second later when he realized who had entered. Luca's chest tightened painfully. He wasn't used to seeing Adrian like this, folded in on himself, silent, fragile without ever meaning to be. That wasn't the Adrian he had dragged away from a violent mate, nor the Adrian who stood firm even when afraid, nor the Adrian who looked like he belonged in Luca's world, despite being born outside it. But this Adrian looked like someone who hadn't been held in a long time. Luca stepped closer. "Adrian, look at me." Adrian didn't. He was gripping the bedsheet too tightly, as if he was trying to anchor himself, while his mind spiraled somewhere darker. Luca sat beside him, close enough that their thighs brushed. "Tell me what's going on in your head." Adrian swallowed. The sound was too loud in the silence. "It's nothing." "That's a lie." Adrian shut his eyes, frustrated. "I don't want you treating me like some wounded thing. I'm not." Luca leaned in, voice low and steady. "I'm treating you like someone I care about." That made Adrian's breath hitch. He turned his head slightly, just enough that the lamplight touched his lashes. Why? He whispered, like the answer couldn't possibly be simple. Luca exhaled slowly. He could lie, or flirt. He could twist the truth like Mafia alphas were trained to, but not with Adrian. Never with Adrian. Because you walked into my night like you belonged in it, Luca said. And because you are the only Omega I've ever met who doesn't flinch from my shadow. Adrian's fingers loosened their death grip on the sheets. Luca, I shouldn't be here. You should, Luca countered instantly. You're safer with me than anywhere else. Adrian shook his head. His voice cracked. You saw the messages. He's not going to stop. And when he finds out I'm with a Mafia alpha, he won't touch you, Luca said, steel threading through his tone. Not while I'm breathing. Adrian turned fully toward him, eyes wet but burning. That's the problem. People who get close to me get hurt. Luca's expression softened. Whoever hurt you before isn't here now. Adrian's lips trembled. But he's still alive, and I can fix that, Luca said quietly. Not threatening, not dramatic, just a truth spoken like a promise. Adrian's breath caught. Luca leaned forward until their foreheads touched. Let me protect you, he whispered. Adrian's pulse stuttered violently. Luca felt it when Adrian's hand brushed his chest, fingers barely grazing warm skin beneath the open collar. But, Adrian began. Luca moved his hand gently to Adrian's jaw, tilting it up. No more buts tonight. A silence stretched between them, heavy, electric, pulling them closer. Adrian's eyes dropped to Luca's lips for one dangerous second. Luca saw it, felt it. He didn't resist. His hand slid from Adrian's jaw to the back of his neck, fingertips stroking the soft hair there. Adrian arched slightly into the touch, a faint, involuntary omega sound escaping his throat. That single sound wrecked Luca's control. He pulled Adrian closer, but just before their lips met, Adrian froze. Luca stopped instantly, hands gentle, not gripping. Did I scare you? Adrian shook his head. No, it's just... He took a trembling breath. It's been so long since someone touched me without wanting to own me. Luca's heart twisted. Adrian, he murmured, brushing a thumb over his cheek. I don't want to own you. I want you to choose me. Adrian's eyes widened at that. Slowly, he leaned in again, this time on his own. Their lips finally touched. Soft at first, barely there like a question. Luca answered by deepening the kiss, slow and steady, one hand sliding to Adrian's waist, the other cradling his face as if it were something precious. Adrian melted. The kiss grew urgent, breathy, charged Adrian's fingers curling in Luca's shirt, Luca pulling him into his lap. Adrian's thighs brushed against Luca's hips, heat rising between them. But then, ding, a notification. Adrian stiffened instantly. His whole body tensed, breath-breaking. He pulled away, chest rising fast. Adrian? Luca asked. Adrian reached for the phone on the nightstand with shaking hands. One new message. From him. I found where you are. Another message came in before they could process. A photo of the outside of Luca's penthouse building. Adrian's blood drained from his face. Luca's expression turned lethal. Then the third message appeared. Omega, time's up. The room went deathly, brutally silent. Adrian whispered, voice barely audible. Luca, he's here. Luca rose in one smooth, deadly motion. Then I'll end this. Chapter 5. The storm had finally broken over the city. Thunder rolled across the skyline, echoing through the glass walls of Luca's penthouse as lightning painted the room in shards of white-blue. Adrian stood frozen, the phone still glowing in his trembling hand. He's here, His breathing turned shallow. Too fast, too sharp. His vision tunneled. Every survival instinct screamed at him to run, even though there was nowhere safer than the man standing in front of him. Luca had already switched, not into a feral alpha, but into something far more terrifying. Silent, cold, controlled, fury. The kind of stillness a predator held before killing. He took the phone from Adrian's hand, looked at the messages once, and then slid it into his pocket. "Adrian," Luca said, voice low and steady. "Listen to me." Adrian swallowed, throat tight. "He's outside. If he sees me, he won't," Luca promised, "because he won't walk back out of this alive." Adrian's heart lurched. "Luca," a sudden crash echoed from somewhere below. The faint shatter of glass. A muffled thud. Adrian turned pale. He broke in. Luca grabbed Adrian's shoulders and pulled him close enough that Adrian felt the warmth and strength vibrating under Luca's skin. "Look at me," Adrian tried, but fear kept pulling his gaze away. "Adrian," Luca repeated, fingers lifting his chin gently. "Look at me." Adrian finally met his eyes. Luca's voice dropped to a dangerous softness. A command that didn't need alpha pheromones to work. "I will not let him hurt you. I will not let him take you. I will not even let him speak your name." Adrian exhaled shakily. Luca's hands moved from his shoulders to his waist, grounding him. "But I need you to stay here, behind me, no matter what you hear." Adrian's breath hitched. His instincts, Omega instincts, wanted to obey. But something else inside him burned hotter. "No." His voice came out small, but shaking. "I'm done hiding." Luca blinked. "Adrian, I won't be terrified of him forever," Adrian said, fists tightening. "I want to see him fall. I want to see him lose. I want to see him realize he can't control me anymore." Luca stared at him, and something like pride flickered through his eyes. "You will stay behind me," Luca said, "but you won't hide. That's different." He reached into a drawer and pulled out a matte black gun, silent and deadly. "Stay close. Touch my back if you panic. I'll know." Adrian nodded, heartbeat shaking his entire body. Another crash, closer this time. A snarl echoed through the hallway. Adrian froze. That's his voice." Luca stepped in front of him, shielding him completely. "Stay with me." They moved together, Luca opening the bedroom door with the quiet precision of someone who had dealt with blood and violence his entire life. The penthouse lights flickered. Thunder growled again. But, beneath the storm, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, taunting. Luca's jaw tightened. At the end of the hallway stood a shadowy figure, long, dark coat, wet hair plastered to his forehead, eyes burning with a kind of madness only obsession could craft. Adrian's former mate. He smiled when he saw them. A twisted, chilling smile that made Adrian instinctively press closer to Luca's back. "There you are," the man crooned. "Found you, Omega." Luca raised the gun without hesitation. "Take one more step," he said softly, "and I will end you." The man laughed. Actually laughed. "Ah, the Mafia alpha hero," he mocked. "Do you think he loves you, Omega? Do you think he cares? He just wants what's mine." Adrian stiffened behind Luca. "Mine." The word triggered every old wound. "No," Adrian whispered, barely audible. But his ex heard it. "Did you say something?" He sneered. Luca tilted his head slightly. "He said no, and you're going to respect that for the first time in your miserable life." The man's gaze flicked to Adrian. "Has he told you? Has your Mafia alpha told you why he's really obsessed with you?" Luca's grip tightened on the gun. Adrian's pulse spiked. "Luca, what is he talking about?" Luca didn't look back. "Don't listen to him." But the ex took a single step forward and Luca fired. The bullet hit the ground an inch from the man's foot. A warning shot. Next one goes between your eyes, Luca said quietly. The man smiled again. Touchy. Must be because the Omega doesn't know the truth yet. Adrian grabbed Luca's arm. Luca, what truth? Luca's voice was low. Later. But the ex took another bold step, spreading his arms as though welcoming a bullet. Tell him, Mafia Alpha, he taunted. Tell him why the Don's son was in that bar. Tell him why he sat right next to the Omega with a violent mate. Tell him the real reason you found him. Adrian's heart stopped. Luca finally spoke, but before he could get the words out, the ex lunged. Straight toward Adrian. Luca fired again. The gunshot tore through the air, sharp, deafening, final. Luca's arm was steady, his aim perfect. But Adrian's ex moved with the frantic unpredictability of someone driven by obsession rather than survival. The bullet grazed his shoulder instead of hitting his heart. Blood splattered across the marble floor. He didn't even flinch. He lunged again directly at Adrian. Adrian cried out and stumbled back, hitting the hallway wall. His heart slammed against his ribs, breath burning. His ex's eyes were wild, feral, glowing with a madness that made Adrian's stomach twist. Omega! The man screamed. You belong! He didn't finish. Luca slammed into him like a force of nature, knocking him sideways. They crashed into a glass console table, shattering it into glittering shards. The ex snarled, swinging wildly. You think you can take him from me? You? Luca ducked the punch, grabbed the man by the back of the head, slammed him into the wall hard enough to crack the plaster. I'm not taking him, Luca said, voice cold as a blade. I'm freeing him. The ex spat blood. You know the truth, Mafia boy. You know why your father wants him. Luca's eyes darkened dangerously, violently. That truth dies with you. Adrian's breath hitched. That truth? His father? Wants him? Luca! Adrian shouted, terrified and confused. What truth? What is he talking about? But Luca didn't answer. He couldn't, not while wrestling a psychopath whose nails were now clawing at his throat. The ex twisted unexpectedly, slamming his elbow into Luca's ribs. Luca grunted, momentarily staggered. The ex seized the moment, grabbing a broken glass. His lips curled into a sick grin. Move, Omega, he said, eyes locked on Adrian. Let me mark you one last time. Adrian froze. His limbs wouldn't move. His mind screamed run, but his body remembered trauma and fear and control. And then the ex lunged for him again. Adrian squeezed his eyes shut. No, not again. Not ever again. A roar exploded behind him. Luca grabbed the man mid-charge, yanked him backward, and slammed him to the ground so hard the entire floor shook. He pinned the ex with his knee, ripped the shard from the man's hand, and pressed the gun to his forehead. The ex spat up blood and laughed, delirious. Kill me. Go on. Then your precious Omega will never know. Adrian whispered, voice cracking. Luca, stop, please. Luca's finger tightened on the trigger. Luca! Adrian cried louder this time, and Luca froze. His breath came harsh. His jaw was clenched so tight it trembled. His hand shook barely, but enough for Adrian to see the war raging inside him. Slowly, painfully, slowly, Luca lowered the gun. The ex smirked. Soft, he taunted. You think you're protecting him? You haven't even told him the reason you walked into that bar that night. You were there for him. You were ordered to find him. Adrian's blood turned to ice. Luca didn't deny it. He didn't say a word. Adrian felt his chest tighten painfully. Luca, is that true? Luca didn't move. Luca. The word trembled out of him. Answer me. Luca exhaled, long, slow, tortured. Yes. Something in Adrian went silent. Completely silent. The ex laughed triumphantly. See? You were never special to him. Omega. You're just a job. Something the Mafia wanted. A piece on a board. Shut up, Luca hissed, raising the gun again. Why? The ex jeered. Because he's finally hearing it from the only person who wasn't lying to him? Adrian's knees weakened. He felt dizzy, cold. Adrian swallowed. You came looking for me? On purpose? Luca turned to him, eyes full of something desperate. Adrian, I swear I didn't know you'd be you. I didn't know you'd matter. Those words were raw, but Adrian felt something twist painfully in his chest. You should have told me, he whispered. Luca took a step toward him. I wanted to. I tried. But every time I looked at you, the ex surged up with a sudden burst of adrenaline, knocking Luca sideways and sending the gun skittering across the marble floor. Adrian gasped. Luca! Luca hit the ground hard. The ex scrambled toward the gun. And Adrian, for the first time in his life, moved faster than his fear. He sprinted. He grabbed the gun. He pointed it at the man who had ruined his life. His ex froze. Put it down, Omega, he snarled. You won't shoot me. You're too weak. You always were. Adrian's hands were shaking uncontrollably, but he didn't lower the gun. Luca rose slowly, staring at Adrian with something like awe. Adrian, Luca said softly, you don't have to do this. Adrian kept the gun trained on his ex. For once, he held the power. I know, he whispered, but I want to. His ex bared his teeth. You won't. Luca stepped closer, voice calm. Adrian, you are not weak. Thunder boomed outside. Adrian's finger tightened slightly on the trigger. His ex glared at him, eyes full of rage and disbelief. Omega, you won't dare. Adrian's voice was shaking but steady. Don't call me Omega, as you own me. And he pulled the trigger. The gunshot cracked through the air like lightning. Adrian's ex staggered, wide-eyed and uncomprehending, blood spreading across his chest where the bullet grazed him. He fell backward, collapsing against the marble floor, his fingers twitching uselessly toward the gun he'd tried to snatch. Silence. Luca's chest heaved as he rose fully to his feet, brushing dust and glass off his coat. His eyes never left Adrian, who was trembling, hands shaking, chest heaving, and yet standing. Alive. Defiant. You did it, Luca whispered, voice low and incredulous. Adrian's hand still gripped the gun, knuckles white. His eyes were wide, almost wild. I had to, he admitted, voice barely audible. He wouldn't stop. I couldn't. Luca stepped forward, closing the distance between them. He put a hand on Adrian's shoulder, and Adrian flinched at first, then leaned into him. Luca's other hand cupped his jaw. Hey, look at me. Adrian obeyed, swallowing hard. His lips trembled. I never wanted to. You did what you had to, Luca said firmly. And you survived. That's what matters. Adrian exhaled shakily, lowering the gun. He dropped it to the floor with a hollow clatter. Luca's chest pressed against his, and his hands slid from Adrian's jaw to wrap around his waist, holding him close. You're safe now, Luca murmured. I've got you. Adrian's arms came up to circle Luca's neck, hands digging into fabric of shirt. He pressed his forehead against Luca's chest, trembling. I was so scared, he admitted. Not of him, of losing you. Luca's lips brushed the top of Adrian's head. You won't lose me. Not ever. You're mine, Adrian, and I'm yours. No one touches you, no one takes you, not ever. Adrian's breath hitched. He tilted his head up, voice soft, a whisper. Yours? Yes, Luca said, eyes burning with possession and something that had nothing to do with blood or duty. Mine. A small, shaky laugh escaped Adrian. I thought I'd never hear that. From anyone. You'll hear it every day, Luca promised. As long as I'm alive, you'll know where you belong. For a long moment, the room was silent, except for their breaths, the distant storm pounding against the windows, and the faint sound of rain dripping from the shattered glass. Then Adrian whispered, voice trembling with emotion, I love you. Luca froze for a heartbeat, and then closed the distance between them. His lips captured Adrian's in a kiss, soft at first, tentative, then fiercer, hungrier, desperate to convey every unspoken emotion that had been building for days. Adrian melted into him, pressing closer, fingers threading into Luca's hair. The warmth of him, the pulse of life, the undeniable presence of something solid and unshakable. Adrian's fear, pain, and loneliness all melted away in that embrace. When they finally pulled apart to catch their breath, Luca rested his forehead against Adrian's. Say it again, he murmured. I love you, Adrian repeated, firmer this time, eyes blazing. I've loved you. Since the first moment I realized you weren't just another alpha passing through my life. Luca's chest tightened. And I've loved you since the moment I decided you weren't going anywhere. That you'd survive. That I'd survive. Together, they stayed there, pressed together in the quiet aftermath, until Rafe's voice broke the spell. Finally, about time you two stopped playing with my nerves. Both men groaned, but Adrian laughed softly, burying his face against Luca's chest. We survived, he whispered. We actually survived. Yes, Luca said, voice steady but soft. And we'll survive everything else. Together. No one touches you, not him, not anyone. Only me. Adrian's lips curved into a small, contented smile. Only you, he echoed. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the room in stark white light. Thunder followed, but Adrian didn't flinch. He clung to Luca, safe in the knowledge that no storm, no past threat, no obsessive ex could separate them now. For the first time in his life, Adrian felt truly free. And he knew, without doubt, that whatever came next, he would face it with Luca Alpha, protector, and finally, the only man he would ever call his own. Epilogue. The dawn after the storm. The sun rose slowly over the city, casting golden light through the penthouse windows. The storm had passed. Rain-slicked streets glimmered below like liquid gold. Adrian sat on the balcony, wrapped in Luca's arms, the warmth of the Alpha's body grounding him. For the first time in years, the city below seemed calm instead of threatening. I never thought I'd feel safe, Adrian murmured. Not here, not anywhere. You're safe, Luca replied, pressing a kiss to the top of his head. With me, always. Adrian leaned into him, eyes closed, a faint smile on his lips. Always, they had survived the threat, survived the past, survived themselves. And now, standing together at the edge of a new day, nothing in the world could take that away. Because they were bonded not by fate alone, but by choice, trust, love, nothing, not even the darkest storm could ever break that again. Luca tightened his arms around Adrian. We're just getting started. Adrian opened his eyes, meeting Luca's gaze for the first time. The Alpha saw no walls, no danger, only the promise of forever. Then, let's begin, Adrian whispered. And together, they faced the sunrise.